Now, here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied, naturally and automatically, by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
We are live at Project Freedom Radio with We Are Change. And here is Howard Nema.
Yes, thank you, Bobby. This is Howard Nema, and we are live on ProjectFreedom.com, and we are now in just about a second. We are live on Rebroadcasts.com. So I have the pleasure to have with us Sherri Kane and Dr. Len Horowitz, and I'm just very glad that we have another opportunity to talk about something that's breaking and some new news and some new information, and to continue this fight against these so-called patriots who are taking all attention away from the real truth and dividing us and conquering us by their lies and deception. So without further ado, I can first thank everybody here. Again, thanks to Bobby K. and thanks to Harry Link at TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, Pam Suggs at UnitedTruthSeekers.com where we're streaming. And I just would like to introduce Sherri Kane, investigative journalist, patriot, and activist, and Dr. Len Horowitz.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? No echoes or anything? Everything good?
Yeah,
Perfect.
everything sounds good.
Excellent. Okay. So, some new information has come to light, hasn't it, Sherri?
Yes. We actually just we filed this about a few months ago, a huge, major legal complaint against the people involved in these attacks. These are mostly COINTELPRO, agent provocateurs. Some of the people named are very high-profile names, well-known people. And we just filed this in March, but now, the case is really starting to take off. We won one of our first victories in court. Most of them are actually under default judgment right now, pending default judgments for not answering the complaint, because one of the rules that the COINTELPRO have is they are not allowed to get involved in legal complaints. So we expected that. We expected that a lot of them, actually there was a few of them that answered us personally but didn't put it into the court system because that's something you're not allowed to do. And so
and that's a fascinating fact. The fact that the COINTELPRO agent provocateurs that are actually working exactly like the FBI's COINTELPRO operatives work, that the congressional record cited, that's exactly what's happening today, and they're not allowed to get involved in actually going to court for their abuses. So they operate above the law. They're virtually indemnified, they think, and we're actually involved now in testing the United States Constitution and the state statutes for bringing these people to justice. And the experiment is whether we, the people, pro se litigants, can study law on our own and work with the civil procedures of the courts to bring justice to our community. So that's really what we're doing.
That's fantastic. But isn't it true that that's the whole purpose behind this operation, is that they try to intimidate people so that they won't take action, so that they won't take legal action against these attacks, and that they won't learn that they have legal recourse? Is that, more or less that's what we're dealing with, right, Len?
Yeah, well, that's what they're involved in. What they expect is that everybody is so pressed for sustenance, maintaining their households, working for $1, and they don't have the time to retaliate using the court system. So we're very, very blessed to do what we're doing. We're sustained by people who love our work, healthyworldstore.com, healthyworldaffiliates.com. Those are the partnerships and the customer base that continue to allow us to, the luxury really of taking the time to study what is the law and how are these people breaking the law and how can you, more importantly, get them, and that then it becomes a test case for everybody. And that's what we've been doing. We're publishing, in fact, up on healthyworldstore.com right now. You can get, and we're asking for donations, a PDF downloads of all the filings and responses to the answers. Where, for example, one of the co-defendants, very famous man by the name of Alex Jones, where he placed his declaration in his answer, and there's obviously 2 perjuries that he's committed right away. And so it's kind of like we have a court of public opinion. And that's the purpose of freedom of the press.
Exactly. And not to interrupt you, but, exactly, I don't want to go back and digress, but one of the things that that infuriates me, and it's very sad, I have this tremendous love, hatred for you guys, because what you did was you broke my belief system, which is a blessing, and I love you for that. But of course, that's the thing. People don't want to break their belief systems that people that they hold in high reverence or they hold to high esteem or high standards could deceive them and actually work against them. And you guys are the ones that opened my eyes to not only Alex Jones, but of course to Anthony Hilder. And this is just a fact. And then I researched this. As you know, I wasn't quick to just to agree with your findings. I had to find my own truth, which everyone needs to do. Seek their own truth and their own, and they'll find their own answer. And I really feel that I'm thanking you for allowing me to look outside the box, because that's what COINTELPRO is, isn't it? That they get you to believe in someone. They make like an iconography of some person or some image or something, and now it's just another one of their tools to manipulate.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You got it. Exactly. And it's all controlled opposition. It's the way they are able to keep it on the grassroots level. I just actually answered a guy who's very supportive of Alex Jones, and he doesn't come right out and say, hey, I'm worshiping him, but he sends us all his newsletters, and he doesn't really want to look at any of our case. He doesn't really want to look at the facts. He doesn't care. It's like we talked about. It's like in that movie They Live, It's like the guy, even when he got beaten up, he put the glasses on, was able to see the truth, right? But this guy, I don't even believe that if you beat him up, he would actually want to see it.
No, but you made a good point, Sherri. If you remember that scene, and it's a pivotal scene, and it really makes a great point, the man, they fight really, really hard, and this guy refuses to put those sunglasses on. And he beats him real bad. Finally, he has to almost beat him to death for him to put those glasses on. And that's the analogy, or that's the symbolism, that you've almost got to beat these people to death.
And what you're experiencing with these people is standard Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's death and dying model that states that whenever someone is confronted with a shocking reality, that the normal response is first denial, and then anger, and then bargaining, and then finally they get to a point where they can begin to accept, and only then, after that, can they become functional. That's what we're dealing with when you suddenly now obviously show with hard material evidence that people, Alex Jones, our heroes, David Icke, Anthony Hilder, these guys are like pawns on a chessboard that are being moved to maintain the status quo of the population manipulation and the divisions and the deceptions that keep the Illuminati and the global genocide ongoing.
And they do it for many reasons. Some are on a payroll, some are working on a get out of jail card free, some are working out on favors, and I mean for all of them, or some are even working out of fear. But for all of them, there is a reason why. And a lot of these people, you can't get them to put the glasses on, because even if they put the glasses on, they wouldn't see it, because they would lose their job, they would lose their position, they would lose their agreement. And so they are all doing this for part of the agenda.
And
that's
it's
how it operates.
fear. That this is the biggest matter. It's the long-term spiritual warfare. You're either in love and co-creativity, productivity, collaboration, or you're in fear and division and dissonance and hate and war mentality. And that is what the paradigm shift, literally the breaking of the paradigm, has to come through these kinds of revelations. And we're just really blessed to not just be showing the world what the problem is and who's creating it, but literally what the solutions are. And I referenced the 528 love revolution that's happening. We're overtaking the music industry slowly but surely. This is kind of like a snowball effect. It's going to be rolling down. You know, every street, every highway, every river is going to be carrying the revelations of how we're going to get out of this mess.
Right. Because our passion is music. You know, we want to have a record company, and that's really all we would like to do. We'd rather than do anything else. But right now we're fighting the beast. As long as we have this Babylonian world we live in, we're going to have to be here, and that's our positioning. That's our what we've been assigned to do.
And it's a responsibility of a free American, according to the Constitution, and especially journalists like you and I, to actually be brave enough, fearless, and that's another major thing. I mean, fear we talked about, but the reality is almost everybody out there is engaged in a hypnotic trance state of fear. Yeah. It's this whole, that's really, he's a shock jock, Alex Jones is. The whole genre is all about conspiracy theory, fright induction, and really population division.
You know, and I get emails from people, they say, well, where is the love? And my response to them is, well, the love is letting people know the truth when you know it, and not keeping it for yourself, no matter how hurtful the truth may be, because sometimes the truth does hurt. And
or dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for everybody listening out there, the number one question you have got to look at is what's in your heart. Is there fear there, or is there faith there? And that's the big choice. You have an opportunity to go to faith. And that's the paradigm shift, because if you understand we're all living out a divine destiny based on a musical mathematical matrix of creation that our source creator creates and sustains us through, then what's the big deal? I mean, do you guys sleep? Do you enjoy sleep? what the hell, this whole thing about dying young is kind of like overplayed. And it's part of the fear indoctrination agenda. That's why, Howard, what you're doing is heroic. You're not afraid to tell the truth. And like you, I mean, we all make mistakes. I was good friends with Anthony Hilder. I was good friends with Ted Gunderson. I was good friends with Alex Jones before I got stabbed in the back by every single one of those guys.
Exactly. And that was the hardest thing for Len to have to deal with, was like, wow, these are the people that I called my friends that are involved in this smear campaign against me. Wow. Why would you do that? And the question was why. It wasn't even how, it was why. All the questions that people should be asking are why. What is the purpose? It's like saying, okay, when we put out a press release on Michael Moore, and Michael Moore we exposed him for being controlled opposition, people loved it. We got so many people like, wow, yes, that's true, he is. But when you put it out on Alex Jones, it's like, oh my gosh, so many attacks. Why? Because, I mean, it's the same thing, right? When you say Michael Moore is controlled opposition, how come you can't say Alex Jones is controlled opposition? Why do people want to believe that? I mean, Michael Moore's putting out good information in his movies, but you got to look at their sponsors. And we didn't know that really for confirmed until we went on Jesse Ventura's.
Yeah, let's talk about the sponsors. Let's talk about the sponsors that were being censored from having any mention of.
Right. Well, when we were on Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory show and we exposed the Gulf oil spill, we were there. We were on the set. It was Jesse and it was the producers, the camera guy, and we were there. And I was just telling the story the way it was. And the producer said...
And they asked us to.
Yeah, and the producer said, now, wait a minute. You can't
mention that.
You can't say Goldman Sachs. You can't mention Goldman Sachs. And you can't mention Big Pharma. Don't mention this. People are like, well, they're involved in sponsoring this. No, you can't do that. And he says, look, those are our sponsors. He was straight up with us. Because you can't do it. I looked at Len. I'm like, what are we doing here?
You know, so what happened was that this fellow who is involved in the Roman Catholic Church, administering the funds, the finances for the Roman Catholic Church, as well as the international director for Goldman Sachs, Peter, what's his name? Peter Sutherland is his name. Heavily involved in both sides of the issue with the Gulf oil spill. We were not allowed to talk about because of the political and financial implications. Related to Alex Jones, people don't realize that he's making a living from banging Homeland Security and Federal Emergency Management. He doesn't realize, people don't realize that his sponsor on Silversol, we have this up on silversolfraud.com, is the top officials from FEMA and Homeland Security Medical, selling competing products, which explains why it is. This is a commercial conspiracy. Ultimately, money. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. So where are these guys making their money? From the sponsorship. What are the sponsors selling? Silver hydrosols. That competes directly with Oxy Silver, which is the first time that I realized I had been had. We were really being economically suppressed. It's called antitrust. Through the media manipulation and the mass mind manipulation, suddenly now we see our sales dropping left and right. And then we start to study who owns Silversol. Who are the board of directors? Suddenly now you realize that Alex Jones' sponsors are top officials in Homeland Security and FEMA.
And here's another clue. Howard. If you look at who Alex Jones interviewed, Ted Gunderson. Ted Gunderson was one of the guys he interviewed frequently. Many times.
I've watched just about every interview that he's done with Ted.
Exactly. Now, these guys that are attacking us, like Tim White, like Truott, these are guys that were all subordinates of Ted Gunderson. They worked under Gunderson. He assigned them to do this. Gunderson started under J. Edgar Hoover with the COINTELPRO programming, and then, it launched, and they went after legitimate whistleblowers, activists, anybody that was going to create any kind of peace that would convince these people to keep their children at home and not send them off to fight in these fake wars. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why they don't really want peace. It's because more peace means less war.
And less money.
Of
course.
Exactly.
So
and eugenics, and the also the depopulation aspect of it. They love killing people. They need to kill young souls. We don't have to go there, but I mean that's definitely part of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Of course.
So you got
no respect for
the war on cancer is the same scam. in a different package.
And the
Yes.
child sex trafficking, and
Right.
you know, just like kids donating kids' parts when they kidnap these kids. Not only are they used in satanic rituals, but a lot of times some wealthy guy wants the heart of a 10-year-old. Well, where are you going to get that? You got to go kidnap him.
I know
You know?
it's outrageous, and you know they make movies about it. And in fact, a good friend of mine is, which he's going to probably be putting a show together. It's going to be I think it's going to be good, and I'm going to help him with it. Basically dissecting movies, like, and how there's all of this symbolism and these little hints of what they do. I mean, you take a movie, you know, like that movie. I forget the name of it, where they actually kidnap these people and they kill them and they take their organs. I mean, as if like it's a horror movie, not realizing that everyone's seeing all these terrible things, movies like Hostel, thinking that this is fantasy, right? But it's actually ultra elite behavior. I mean, I don't even know how else to put it.
Like Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut, exactly. Perfect example. Exactly. And other movies, Metropolis. Metropolis is tremendous. I mean, 1926. It's unbelievably filled with this imagery of the transhumanist and the other, and oh my God, it's out. They conform. A woman becomes a robot in the movie. I don't know if you've ever watched it, and she loses her soul and her body and she becomes a robot.
That sounds exactly like those who are attacking us.
Exactly. Of course it's who's these people. Yes. And they call us Satanists. They call you a Satanist because of the 528. And if I tell somebody that I channel music, oh, that means that that's the work of the devil.
Right.
That God couldn't be involved in that or at all. It's just positive energy.
That's right.
These guys are really the ones that are the Satanists. I mean, they're pointing the fingers at us. You know what they say when someone points a finger? You point the finger at someone, they have 3 pointed back at you.
Right.
And that's exactly what's going on in this situation. It's like exactly. And so if you look at Alex Jones interviewing Ted Gunderson all those months, and when our friend Barbara Hartwell went on Genesis Communications to expose Gunderson after she found out, you know, what kind of a person he was.
And the connection to child sex trafficking.
Exactly. And she went on there and she exposed him and then got cut off. Censored by Alex Jones. And
Genesis,
and then
yeah.
pretty much blackballed from radio because of it. I mean, look at the power that this one guy had.
Same way. I mean, Jeff Rent, supposedly this story is, and I'm not sure how much I trust it, but according to Rentz and his allies, he was terminated from Genesis by Jones.
So, you know, you're hearing it over and over again, but then look at who Jones is connected to, Gunderson. And look who Gunderson is connected to. All these guys are attacking us.
So, and this is an important point, because the way that we think today as patriots, as even Christian fundamentalists who are involved in loving Jesus and trying to bring truth and righteousness to a political system that's out of control. Where did we get most of our beliefs and our attitudes? From Hilder, from Gunderson, from the creation of the conspiracy industry that both of those men have taken credit for as the primary creators of the whole conspiracy genre. That's what they were assigned to do for controlling us, controlling the opposition, it's called. And basically that's what currently, again, the mainstream media, as well as Alex Jones, who's very close, if not already in the mainstream, this is what it does.
Well, I think Alex Jones is like a covert mainstream media. You know, it's like you know, he's really mainstream, but he says that he's alternative.
Yes. Exactly.
Because he's on how can you be on 120 radio stations and be considered not mainstream?
Exactly.
And this week in centerfold of the National Examiner, dealing with the Barack Obama implications in the murder of Andrew Breitbart. And so this whole concept of it's all politics, it's all political. Jones is pushing a politician who's running for the President of the United States. He is the principal propagandist for Ron Paul's campaign. Are you serious if you don't think that there's going to be some secret agendas and finances going on in the background?
Well, I'm very upset about what's happening with Ron Paul's campaign because he's not even talking about a third-party issue, and now his son is backing Romney. It's like Obamney or O'Romna. You know, I mean, it's like call him the same name. You know.
But that's part of the deception. I love what you just said, and the reality is, you remember Ross Perot. Remember the
Of course, yeah, the great sucking sound. Why was America so blind then? They thought he was a nut.
That's exactly right. He was self-destructed. He was unelectable from the get-go. It was a controlled opposition scam to get all of the conservatives who were the libertarians off of the roles of the status quo and into some movement that we all thought was something more than a sucking sound.
Yeah, but now you got Nazis that are finally coming out from out of their coffins and showing their fangs in this government, passing these totally unconstitutional laws. At least we heard that the court overturned the legality of detaining Americans without any probable cause. That's the only. I mean, let's at least. Hey, there's one. You don't even know. Is it real or is it Memorex? I can't even figure it out.
You got real Nazis, and this is the.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones is actually co-publishing on his blogs. That's what our lawsuit is involved in. A cause of action against Jones is co-publishing with America's leading white supremacists, the most vocal and hideously harassing and lascivious, that's obscene, people who are using those kinds of things to libel activists such as you, such as Sherri, such as I. These guys have a neo-Nazi mentality and ideology that Eric John Phelps and Craig Oxley have advanced. That's what the KKK, Christian Identity Movement, is all about. It's neo-Nazi fascism and literally satanic sorcery that's being projected, pointed at us as though we are, they call us the spawn of Satan. Anti-Semites, anti-racists, they call us Jews, they call us non-Hebrew Kaisars who are the spawn of Satan.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, they operate in support of the Michael Aquino Church of Satan Temple of Set group that Gunderson was covering up and involved in this child sex trafficking hideous network.
And the New World Order, this whole agenda, people don't realize, is another thing for communism. It's another name for communism.
Absolutely, that's what it is. Yeah,
it
fascism.
Is
it's like a hybrid.
Exactly, it's communism. Actually, it's even more harsh than communism. It's fascism. It is fascism at its worst, and people don't realize if that takes place, there's no free enterprise anymore. The only health store, like we talked about yesterday, is going to be the Rockefeller health store. And nobody can have their own health store online. It's all going to be controlled by Monsanto beans and Monsanto herbs. And everything is going to be monopolized by one group of people that are going to control everything. And everybody else is supposed to work under them and do as they say. And a lot of people are not waking up to that fact.
But they are actually, Sherri, listen, I was very happy because here in Torrington, Connecticut, in the Register Citizen, they had a cartoon, anti-Monsanto cartoon with an article talking about how Monsanto has these seeds and then the Roundup just happens to not kill their vegetables, But, when it kills the pesticides kill the bugs, but not doesn't. And they're starting to hit a little bit on the mainstream with Monsanto's evil. Because that's a Journal Register paper, which is a big paper. I mean, I know, and it's also sort of a propaganda rag. You got to wonder because I know it's been underwater since I've moved here. I mean, they pump money into these papers. All are underwater.
Exactly.
If people aren't aware of this, your local newspapers and news organizations, if it's a network, they lose money, but they have to do it.
Well, the problem with it is that when Monsanto is getting such a bad reputation that people are waking up to Monsanto.
Right.
But then, so then they get rid of Monsanto. That goes bankrupt and creates another Monsanto.
Yes, exactly. Another name. Exactly. So it's the practice we have to attack.
Exactly. So you don't know, like, as far as why they published that. Yeah, okay, we're on the same page as you. Monsanto is really bad, but guess what? We're still going to control you. And that's still the point, is that they're still going to control us, because at the highest levels, they have all the power and money to do whatever they want with us. And anybody who thinks that a presidential, a president that gets elected is not going to be under the control of the banksters is crazy, because there's no way. There's no way that they're not going to control everything. Once they have that level of money, power, and evil, they'll do anything. And they're not going to get back down and be nice. Okay, we'll just let this president do as he pleases. We won't say anything. This won't be another one of our puppets, because it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. We don't have that, luxury in this world.
Yeah, there's this urban legend, if you want to call it that the president, the first thing he does, they bring him down to the basement or downstairs in the White House, and they show him a videotape. They say, you're gonna have to watch something, and it's the Kennedy assassination, and then they just say, any questions? So, in other words, don't rock the boat.
Exactly. Here's what could happen to you. You got any questions?
I mean, I don't know how true that is, because that's why, again, I try very hard, and that's why I defend truth, too. I mean, I hated, let me tell you, it was terrible to find out that Alex Jones was not who he appeared to be. It was terrible to find these things out. But people have to understand that you cannot defend a lie. And these people are going after us now for saying, well, listen, you people are lying, and it's not true. And then I put Janet Phelan on the air, and oh my God, all of a sudden Timothy Patrick White calls me up and tells me I have my head up my ass. I mean,
that's expected from somebody who's got his head up there all the time.
Yeah, he likes it up there too, as I understand it, the cross-dressing and all that. He's into that, alternative lifestyle.
I want to make the point of the fact that people are angry with Alex Jones as being vetted here, but the reality is that, yes, he has contributed a lot to the truth movement, and it's called the 85-15% rule. 85% of what he outputs is truth, and that 15% is omitted. Well, in law, omission is part of misrepresentation, is part of fraud. And in the Bible, a half-truth is a complete lie. And so this is the issue, is, you can't run an agenda with sponsors that include Homeland Security that is engaged in profiteering off of humanity's suffering as a shock jock and tell the whole truth. There's only people like you, Howard, out there, like we also, we're not under the sponsorship of Big Pharma or the war machine. And so we have the responsibility as journalists in the free press to advance what the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment, for requiring we the people to advance a free press, to maintain checks and balances on corrupt government and corrupt officials. That is our responsibility. It's not Alex Jones's. It's not being a fan of Alex Jones. It's getting out there and researching, finding the truth, and telling the truth in whatever media mechanism you can.
Well, I think with Alex Jones, I think they're going to move him to Glenn Beck's network. Glenn Beck just started a $20 million or $20 million? $20 million network.
Yeah, he has the capacity to earn this year $20 million by leaving Fox and starting a new network. And you can tell from the media, actually the promotions that these guys are outputting and their collaborations, that it's probably sure that Alex Jones is going to be joining Beck in some significant way, prospering financially in some way.
Yeah, and I think that what's going to happen is more people among us, or that are waking up to this truth. They're just going to push him out of this, and he's just going to get more into the mainstream. Now, we tell one thing we look at in the news is we do check mainstream articles all the time, and you can even look at Alex Jones's reports or even Glenn Beck's reports.
I watch them quite closely, actually. I watch, yeah.
But when you take all
Drudge
this
Report.
information, then you do your own research. And then you say, okay, if he's saying this, let me go see what is truth, what is not. I mean, you got to do work. It's research.
This is actually the prescription that for years and years, people asked me in the beginning, where did I get all my information from? And exactly what Sherri's saying, and you're talking about, Howard, is you've got to read both sides of the divisiveness. You've got to read the right wing, the left wing, the conservative versus liberal, the New Ager versus Christian fundamentalists, the right-wing libertarian politics to the left-wing conservatives and liberals. You've got to then realize every one of those factions is biased by their own agendas, and that they're only outputting their 85% of truth. It's then, only then, when you're well-read and studied, that you get the full 15%, and you add that to the picture, and now you've got the whole story. That's the wise way to operate in this age of deception.
It's not the easy way, though, but it's the...
No, they make it very hard. That's the whole thing. You see, they've dumbed down the society. They've made us lazy, couch potatoes, and generally, for generations now, a couple of generations at least now, right? And now they're taking the spunk out of life, because all you have when you get home is, listen, I just want to be left alone. Let me put on the TV. It's almost, I got to have dinner, put the TV on. It's time for bed. I got to do it again.
Well, look, this is a great example, an intro to where did we get the American dream?
It's a fantasy.
Well, let me tell you where it comes from. This is a shocking reality, and I published this in the book Death in the Air, Globalism, Terrorism, and Toxic Warfare. I started to look at the numerology, like it's 66. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, there was just a dropout for a second there. It's okay.
Okay. So, I started by looking at the numerology, like 666, Mark of the Beast, Phillips 66, America's Highway, this whole Route 66. Where did that come from? Well, it turns out that was established by the Rockefellers, of course. Who else? And at the time, this was right after World War II, there was kind of like an aimlessness and a malaise in the American society. What are we going to do next after the war now? And so literally Eisenhower was called upon by the Rockefeller boys to come up with what is the purpose of America. This is no lie. This is in the history books. And they ran a contest. They took all sorts of, submissions from various sources about what should be the purpose of America. And they concluded, here's what it is: to combine commercialism, guns, and butter with freedom in a free world. That became the mission of the United States of America by the actions of the Rockefellers and the Rockefeller Foundation, accepted, in fact, coerced into the Eisenhower administration to become public policy. And since then, everything that we get in terms of mainstream media and the mission of this country is filtered through that decision. Now you begin to understand what the media does. It's a psyops. It's a psychological operation to get us all to buy into the American dream, which supports commercialization of guns and butter and nuclear weapons and militarization for maintaining world control over the semblance of peace. That's America. And that's where our American dream came from. It's all a fraud. It's a psyops. And who produces it, who sustains it, is the media.
That's absolute right on the money. And the whole idea of nobody would... How many generals, I think it was in World War II, they all did, Germany, Japan. You could never invade America because we have too many guns. It's like 100 million people have guns in this country. So, I mean, it's not practical to invade us. However, if you invaded us, I would think that's, of course, reason for war. Short of that, I don't think there's ever reason for war. We need to take an isolationist stand because they want a world government, and they're using war as excuses to help these poor people in Libya. We have to give them some love bombs, kill 30,000 civilians to put Al-Qaeda in place and kill the tyrant Gaddafi. That's what we have to do. Yeah.
And this sad reality that I'm concerned about the reports that foreign military officials and troops are coming into the United States with American troops spread all around the world. We're spread so beyond thin that we're ripe, and everybody knows it, for an invasion. And the fact that they're the globalist New World Orderists, and again, this is the sick, sad reality. The war against we the people is not coming from the United States government. It's coming from Wall Street.
Yes.
London. And it's coming from the globalization of the economy. It's called economic governors. It's not our legislators. And so this is what we must grasp, and we must respond to reasonably, peacefully, and not go where they want us to go. They literally want us to engage them in war on the streets. They want us to engage in getting intoxicated, vaccinated, and then depopulated. We can't go to where they want us to go. And the fact is, and the beauty is that the United States Constitution and the legal system still operates and can be compelled to operate effectively as it was meant to be.
That's true, but people have to stand up to it. You have that's why they have these big psyops and the mind control and the media and getting everybody distracted watching American Idol. It's all about distracting the people so they can fleece them. And this is nothing new. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And now we're at a point where we are militarily stretched, and they really do want us to have a civil war. They want us to uprise and gives them the reason to fill those FEMA camps that supposedly are a conspiracy theory that don't exist. It's unbelievable that they can get the people, oh, you're crazy, to really the average American actually would go. That's what scares me the most, Len and Sherri, that they would go.
Yeah. I have a comment on that. Years ago, this is 1982 actually, the Associated Press came to my dental office. I was working there as a holistic dentist, one of the foremost in the country, and they did a whole feature story on me to try to discredit me and discredit holistic healthcare. I was working with physicians and chiropractors and nutritionists and acupuncturists, all sorts of wonderful colleagues that we were actually receiving from Tufts University School of Dental Medicine, their basket cases, the people that they couldn't help with head and neck pain. We were within days getting better and just really doing great work. So the Associated Press comes and starts to do a number on me to discredit me. And it was then that I realized that the power of the media to move this whole agenda, how big pharma can be moved and people can be moved, and the deceptions that go into people's minds is extraordinary and totally deadly.
Not only deadly, but it's mind-numbing. Can you imagine? Take Orencia. It'll help you, but you can get cancer. Take all these drugs that they do. Ask your doctor. Why should you have to ask your doctor? Shouldn't he know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly the exactly the con. It's promoting it to the marketplace to make the demand, to create the demand for the product. So it doesn't support actual science even. It doesn't support anything. And this is what the Associated Press story made me realize, that this concept of behavioral science, because one of the questions that they asked me, because they knew that I was a behavioral science expert from Harvard, trained literally in media, persuasion, technologies, research, and development. So that enabled me, when I watch news, and this is why I've really been blessed, I can call things, I can vet things before anybody else sees them. I see them because I see the agenda operating through the technology in the media. And for example was the anthrax mailings. I called that 1 week before it happened. And I was at the FBI complaining about that it was something hideous was going to happen with anthrax 1 week before. So I can do that, but the question came, how solid is behavioral science compared to the other sciences such as physics or mathematics? And I foolishly stated it's not as solid as physics or mathematics. I was wrong. The science of behavioral science and persuasion technology using the mind-controlling media is the most sophisticated and researched science of all, just because it's the most powerful in terms of enslaving humanity to a political and financial agenda. We are all dumbed down. We're all mind controlled. We're all engaged in a hypnotic trance state from the psychological induction through the media manipulation. We are hypnotized. And the only way to get deprogrammed is to listen to a show like this and suddenly get it. Wow, wake up, holy smoke, have I been had? And simply eat humble pie and get on with your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have said that better. That's the thing, and again, they have it in such a way where there's such pride involved with oneself that, and they don't, and such fear of others ridiculing. I think that I can honestly admit that the way I sort of I remember when Timothy Patrick White seemed to think that I jumped in with 2 feet immediately, starting all this stuff started back in October or September, which isn't really that long ago when you break it down, right? But it wasn't true. For the last couple of years, I woke up in 2007, and I was just putting together little videos. I wasn't really I started making videos a little before that, but he was referring to the radio show. And I did fear about talking about certain things, and I did have this sort of worry about what my friends might think, or people that I know might think. And then one day, it just I don't know, I just started to say, you can't do this half-ass, you have to, you can't just give these people clues, you have to show them why and give them the information. And I found that it took a little courage to actually do that. But then it's now it doesn't matter, I don't care about what anybody thinks. But people in general have that sense of themselves, I think, through this social control, that, you're crazy, but you show them something, you show them evidence, and they still think you're crazy. So,
yeah, that's exactly the hypnosis.
Yes.
That's the trance state.
They don't bother to look at the evidence. They don't want to see it. They don't bother to look at it. They don't bother to research it, because there's a fear factor not only in finding out the truth, but also in what they're invested in. They're invested in these guys. They believe in them. They sponsor them. They probably send them money. They everything that they believe, or their whole idea of what's going on in the world changed. Maybe that they got introduced to it by these guys. They're heroes. They went from believing that 9/11 was not an inside job to an inside job through these guys. So they feel like they owe them everything, and so they don't want to believe that. Oh my gosh, now my heroes are involved in this? No, that's not true. Because now you're telling me I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm not going to be called an idiot, and they have too much pride.
Exactly.
It's kind of like telling a cancer patient who's bought into the chemotherapy and radiation therapy that they'd be better off going natural, holistic. They just do not want to hear it. And that's the same hypnotic trance state. And that's why I'm saying behavioral science is the strongest, most powerful, and influential science politically. And these guys have mastered the art of population manipulation and persuasion. Howard, I want to also acknowledge what you just said. You're a hero. What makes you a hero is not only do you have the humility to admit that you were mistaken and you've moved on, but also the integrity, the highest level of integrity, to not be afraid. That is just masterful. It's what brings you out of, the whole general average Joe in the street, or even the more intelligent of the media personalities. Those guys are still playing the game that you and I and Sherri and others in our group here have given up. It's the integrity of going with righteousness instead of fear.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. I again, it's just like I started doing this for a reason. I wasn't doing this to deceive people. So when you find out that you're being deceived, it's pretty hard to. And then, yeah, you're right. There are people that will defend a lie because they don't want anyone to think badly of them. And it's, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I figured it this way. It's like truth is the only reason why I did this. So whatever it is, if anything turns out to be true, look what happened with Scott David Peters, who was the former basically station manager at informedradio.com. He did some bad stuff, and defend him and say, oh, it's okay, and not call the police on him because he's looking at child pornography. Right. And sharing child pornography. No, I turned him in, and that's it. That's what you got to do. That's what we're doing. Isn't this what it's all about? Isn't that the whole point? Everybody, it's not being a hero. I think everybody just needs to just do for righteousness and forget about what people think. I mean, look at my hair. I mean, if people are like, I got long hair, so it's not trendy. Who cares? It's not. So I like it that way. Whatever. Everybody has that. I don't have to fit a mold. Exactly. That's the problem. They want to have everyone fit this mold.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And as soon as you go outside of the box, as soon as you step outside of the box, then there's only going to be a few that are going to join you at first, because that's the way it always is. People have a sheep mentality. They're not going to look at the research. They're not going to look at what you wrote right away, and they're only going to look at it after somebody that they hear about it maybe 1,000 times, or somebody that they're related to tells them that they respect, or best friend tells them. I mean, it's really difficult. It's it's a battle. It really is on a day-to-day basis that people refuse to look and weigh out the evidence, the facts, and really open up their eyes, and that's what we're dealing with. That's the hardest battle of all.
Right, breaking the belief system. Exactly.
And believe me, they hate you at first for even trying to. I mean,
yeah, I was angry at you guys because first of all, I was mad, and I was like, what is this? But that anger sparks curiosity. I mean, if somebody attacks you and you don't respond, oops, I'm sorry.
Just getting any response?
No. I said if you don't respond to these things and do research and find out, you can't just take a position. How can you take a position unless you're sure that it's true?
Exactly.
I mean, and if it's not true, then by damn, please, let's set us on the right path. I mean, that's why this country is so fucked up. Because nobody wants to put it on the right track. Nobody wants to take blame for a mistake. And that they might have been misled, and they might have been lied to, and they might have been following something that was wrong. No, that's how power with the people. I mean, I hate to use that expression, but that's how the power is in the people to make change. They have to do it individually. They want to crush the individual, make everything the group. We have to help humanity. They can't look at the individual because the individual has the most power. Anyway, we have the pleasure of having a guest coming on to join us. Could you guys take a guess and think who it was who it is that'll be joining us in just about 10 seconds?
Let's guess. Is it Barbara?
No, but I'll have to say that it's from the We the People Network, which we are both members of. We are all members of.
Roger.
and partners. Roger Landry is being added to the call as we speak. And Roger should be joining us in just a moment. Roger Landry started We the People Network, and he is joining us right now. How are you today, Roger?
I'm doing fine. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you in a while, though.
I know, and I've been talking about the network, of course, every show, and yeah, we haven't had the chance. I know you've been very busy. You've got a television network now going on. We have the universal, basically We the Peoples across the entire world at this point. Just about.
Yeah. The global reach is exploding, and a lot of that has to do with the executive director of Building Bridges, which is Jaylan Uzbaduk, and of course Lynn Nichols, who runs this network on a daily basis. But then we all know that strong women stay out of their way. Sherri, would you agree with me? It is very nice to see the both of you here. I have been listening to part of the show as I have been working. And yeah, a lot of what you say, the both of you, is so spot on. And one of my biggest drives is the knowledge that as individuals, we are lost to the system, but that this entire governance was set up for the voice of we the people, and we have neglected that long enough. It's about time we stuff a little backbone back into our pants.
Hallelujah.
Stood up and said, freedom may cost me something, but doing nothing will cost me everything.
Oh, good for you. You're so brilliant. I love you, Roger.
It's great to hear you too, Len. But anyway, the conversation has been great up until this point, and I have been asked on several occasions, why aren't you drawing closer to Alex Jones? Because a lot of what you guys discuss is along the same avenues, and the controversy has been swirling, and it's like buzzards, and they're in a big circle overhead, and sometimes you just wish to see the dust settle before you plunge. I have been very interested in what you and Sherri have reported, Leonard. I have read your articles, I have read your petitions. We appreciate the petition that you have on the front page of WTPnetwork.com. So it just seems that every time I get around to growling a little bit, I look and you guys are in the same room with me. That's comforting.
Yeah, it's great. Misery loves company, right?
Absolutely, and I must say that Howard does his share of time in that room as well.
Yes, right.
I've heard Howard growl quite a few times lately, and this is a good thing. I have had so many people tell me that they have heard 1 billion times, one person may speak, but many unified voices can roar. It's time for we the people to roar. Yeah. And you're going to hear it 1 million more times because it is a very simple principle. There are less than 500,000 armed combat troops in the entire U.S. military, and most of them are deployed overseas. There will be more Russian soldiers in this country. I believe they're going to have up to 100,000 in a contingent out by the Denver airport. They've already got 5,000 in building their barracks and prepping for them.
That's right.
So we have a situation whereby if we choose to forget for another couple years, then we just need to sit back and resign words like freedom and liberties and rights to books that you have to hide to read because they're going to be illegal. We're that close.
Right? That's fascism. People have never lived in that kind of society before. We have
never lost so many rights in such a short period of time due to the responsibility, the direct responsibility and involvement of one individual.
That's right.
How can people not see what's going on?
It's unbelievable. It's mind control. That's what we've been talking about, Roger. It's mind control. They don't want to face it. Their belief system is that this is the land of the free, the home of the brave, and America's the best. Will always be the best.
And both of the political opponents whom the mainstream media has consigned to being left in this race are being supported by the exact same big banks and big corporations. What the hell does that tell you?
It's just, that's the whole thing. It's the same thing. It's like I said, Robamna, Obamna, whatever you want to call them. It's the same pig. They're just putting some makeup on it. That's it. Right?
I'm going to bow out. I had to come in and say hello to Sherri and Leonard. I very much appreciate their work, and I'm enjoying listening to the show. And I'm going to go back to doing something, hopefully, that's going to benefit the network, and listen to the rest of your show. Thank you for letting me pop in, Howard. It's always great to hear from you, and it's always great to listen to your show. So.
Well, thank you, Roger, and you're always, of course, welcome. And death to the New World Order, and We the People Network rises, and I'm so happy about it. Everything's going great. Your show's awesome on Thursdays.
There's 110...
Plug your show, Roger.
There's 110 radio podcast shows in the We the People Network at this point.
That's excellent.
We constitute one of the biggest media groups in the country. We need to harness that. We need to get people focused on the fact that they have a word to put out. We have a lot of venues. Let's start putting some word out, a unified word. Thank you, Howard. You guys have a great day. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Roger. God bless.
Bye, Roger.
Bye.
Okay.
Soon.
Excellent. All right, this is Howard Nema of We Are Change, Connecticut. I didn't even get to mention that Vinny Be the Truth is on a slight hiatus. He's not going to be joining us. Obviously, he's not been with us this show. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the show. I didn't mean to leave him out. It's just that I hadn't mentioned it. And, of course, we're going to take a short little break, a 2-song break. Are you going to still join us, Sherri? And you guys still have some time, or do you need to move on?
Well, be happy to. If you're
Excellent.
happy to have us, we'll join you.
No, absolutely. We're here until 8 p.m., and you have as much time as you'd like. Just need to take this typical break and little station ID from ProjectFreedom.ws, and you're, of course, watching TruthBroadcastNetwork.com. We will be back in just 2 songs.
And we're live at Project Freedom Radio with Howard Nema and We Are Change, Connecticut.
Thank you so much, Bobby K. And yes, we are back with Sherri Kane and Len Horowitz, and we've been talking about all things New World Order. We had the pleasure of We the People Network's founder, Roger Landry, chiming in for a little bit. And yes, we have to return to this individualism. I think that we have lost the individual in this ideology of setting certain... They give you different occupations that they want you to learn, different indoctrination programs, not really trying to find the individual spirit of the person. And this has been going on since the Rockefellers. It does, it's funny, Len, it does always go back to the Rockefellers, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it actually goes back to the Rothschilds.
Well, the Rothschilds, of course, yes. But I mean, in the last 100 years, they're sort of been given the task of re-indoctrinating America and controlling the banking in this side of the water.
Yes, they were funded through J.P. Morgan, was the bag man. That guy on the Monopoly board with a handlebar mustache is J.P. Morgan. He was the bag man handling the money from the Rothschilds to the Rockefellers that got them started in their criminal activity and their treasonous activity against the United States of America at the beginning, really, of the 20th century.
I couldn't have said it more precisely. Exactly, and apparently that you find the same love for the Rockefeller family as I do. Certainly, they are the opposite of 528 love, and it's just unbelievable that you have an organization that has grown over philanthropy, right? The Rockefeller Foundation founding all the medical schools and all of the big pharma drug companies like Merck and Pfizer, and taking people such as yourself, who is from a holistic side, and pretty much attacking you to the point of almost putting you out of business, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. But that's actually what they're best known for. They're most infamous for stabbing people, their competition, in the back. Literally, they murdered entire cartelization of the oil industry in America, beginning in Ohio. That's where they began, and that was really unheard of in the United States society. America, up until that point, when the Rockefellers began to literally feloniously, illegally take over the strong arm their way into the cartelization of energy in the United States. Up until that point, American business people were, by and large, honest. They were hardworking, and they were involved in just business operations and compensations. And Rockefellers changed all of that.
Yeah, they sure did. And now we have this cutthroat thing, and it's been sort of a decay of moral standards. You could just see this. I mean, look at what happened with the Bank America fraud, the cut and paste mortgages. You had these out of control derivatives that was sold that they knew would make enormous fortunes on the way up, but of course would cause basically the depression that we're in right now. And that's okay. You know, they have no remorse. They are intending on collectivizing property. Like they did this with 1920 with the panic, right? 1907. The original panic, as you're probably aware, of course, you'll know, if hating these people as much as I do, that they caused the panic of 1907. Morgan comes in as the savior, saves the banks. Does this sound familiar? Instead of the Federal Reserve saving the banks? Then says we need something to be put in place to stop this from ever happening again and protect the banking system. So they create the Federal Reserve. And then in 20 years, the Federal Reserve bankrupts America, literally. And in 1920, there is a great panic just like that. But what do? The same thing they did now. What did they do in 1920? They pumped up, they basically bailed these people out, created another bubble, which burst in 1929. And I think we're in this cycle again from that 1920 to 29, and you're looking at this whole bailout thing. This Ponzi scheme is going to blow up. Then what happens?
Right.
Well, again, it's all for the New World Order. That's what all of this deception is moving us towards. And
one world government.
It's one world government, one world peace
currency,
one world currency, one world court, one world health organization. So this is what we're looking at, and suddenly we got started feedback on our line.
We have a little bit of feedback. Howard.
Yeah. So at any rate, but the degeneration, it's all demonic. Look at God. How does God work? Look at the beauty, the balance. Universally, it's constructed perfectly, musically, mathematically, to sustain itself. Gee whiz. Tell me what in the United States is doing that right now. What in our political, economic, geopolitical system? Planned obsolescence. Things are meant to break down. You have to buy an insurance for whatever product you're buying right away. Because they're expected to break down before it's time. It's grossly degenerative in every way. Now that is satanic. It's obviously so. This is not of God. And it violates the core principles of and the values of what a human life and living is intended to be. Now the Constitution tells us that we have the freedom to express ourselves, that we have freedom of the press, and that we have this civil rights to live happily ever after in whatever we choose to do. This, what is happening, this manipulation and degeneration is completely opposed to anything American. It is un-American. And the only solution is like Roger Landry just said. You've got to have a We the People network come forward and simply help each other to identify the methods and materials by which we can restore our nation to its prophesied role as being the last and greatest bastion of freedom on this planet, and rebuke anything but the assertion of that for prospering us in all ways, physically and spiritually, to be prospered and sustained for 1,000 years of world peace.
But how do you?
That's the mission.
How do you uprise against all that money and power unless you can get all the people? That's what
you do it in
is.
the grassroots.
Yeah,
it's where you have Howard on his show today, and we're on the show.
Exactly, but here's my point. My point is that these people that don't want to pay attention to what's going on with the COINTELPRO and us, the people that don't want to listen to this, and they say, well, look, there's bigger fish to fry. Look at what the Rockefellers are doing. Look at what these people... But they don't realize that we have deception going on in our grassroots where we're divided, where these people are actually working for the people that are creating.
But again, Sherri, though, it's karma, it's Judgment Day, and people reap what they sow. And if you want to sow ignorance and arrogance and unwillingness to look at the facts or do a little bit of homework or tune into Howard's show and get educated very rapidly, you're going to sustain your judgment, and it's going to be painful. These are the people that are going to go get vaccinated. These are the people that are going to go to the concentration camps or go to the streets with arms and get shot and killed. The reality is that you have a choice, and there's a wise choice that will help to evolve spiritually and physically sustain us, and then there's a stupid choice, and it's really becoming black and white today from my perspective. I think everybody that is destined to wake up in time are going to wake up in time, and they're going to be saved. Everybody else, I can only say that as they sow, so shall they reap.
I mean, the question I have, and I'm looking at this right now on the computer. Why doesn't anybody among the grassroots talk about the death of Danny Casolaro? Why don't they talk about it?
Let's talk about Danny Casolaro. Let's talk about that. That was an incredible story, and it's a similar story to that was the. They stole the government protocol, right? With that, yeah, promise.
Howard,
yeah.
And guess what? Do you know that the Obama administration's name for the health care legislation, the entire manipulation of the population via computerization of the database and the history and the mark of the chip, the mark of the beast, the biochips, is called PROMISE. In the same way it's spelled as the promise.
It doesn't have an E. Yeah, it's PROMIS. Yes, but promise. Interesting, right? Well, that's how they work, right? Promise. Oh, we'll promise you. There's an ambiguous word.
Yeah. Well, I think like Sherri's saying, if we start to look at Danny Casolaro's involvements, and then suddenly you may want to also get Stu Webb as an interview on your show. He's been heavily discredited, heavily targeted by the same people that have attempted to discredit you and I and Sherri and Barbara Hartwell. And he goes into great depths about the money and who is involved in the Leo Wanta manipulations of the Bush administration and the Bush cartel, the drugs for arms, and all of this scandalous stuff that Danny Casolaro was up to his eyeballs in, that included the manipulation of the PROMISE software capabilities to advance the most manipulative of all the computer-directed population controls.
And also, he was and he was going to go to Time magazine with this whole story. It was called The Octopus.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Why don't you expand on this for folks that are not listening? Sherri, why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background on Danny Casolaro and how this software was, the government basically stole the software, but go into the whole story. It's a great story.
Yeah, well, the thing about Danny Casolaro was he was a journalist. He was like us. He was an independent journalist, and basically what he did was he came across like how, I guess he stumbled across this bit of information. He got tips from people, and one thing led to another. Because once you stick your nose into it a little bit, you realize it has a lot of tentacles. It goes into different places. That's why I always tell people, listen to what we're saying, what's going on in the grassroots level, because this is how if you really can grasp it, you can see where the strings are pointing. You can see how it goes up to the highest level, and why they're doing what they're doing on our level to create what they're doing on the highest levels and make it work. Because people are all manipulated down here, they're not seeing the bigger picture. And Danny was actually murdered right before he was going to do the Time Magazine article. He was murdered. They found him in a bathtub in a hotel room with his wrist slit. The thing is, his family states that he was afraid of blood tests. He would have never have committed suicide, and he would have never have done it that way. And he actually, I mean, his wrists were slit multiple times.
Well, again, going to similarly in a way it's connected again because of the government connection. You've got Gary Webb, who somehow miraculously committed suicide, shot himself twice in the head. Right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I mean, this is all these lies that they just like. It's suicide. Twice in the head. This guy slices his wrist. He would never do that. But believe it, because they tell you.
Exactly. Well, the thing is that he came upon the enslave case, which was about the software manufacturer who created Promise software, and the owner was accusing the Justice Department of stealing his work. And also at the same time, this was during like the Iran hostage crisis and and also the time of the Iran-Contra. Now, the thing is that he was also stumbled upon the Cabazon Desert, which was what Ted Gunderson was heavily protecting, because the Cabazon Desert Indian Reservation was sort of like the Iran-Contra of America. That's where they were doing a lot of their deals. That's where Ted Gunderson allegedly sold the Stinger missiles to Osama bin Laden. That's where a lot of the arms and drug trade was happening. And Ted Gunderson did whatever he could to protect this information. And Danny Castellara consulted with Ted Gunderson, according to many reports, several times. So Ted Gunderson was well aware that Danny was onto this. And he was going to expose it. He was writing a book, and he went to meet a guy. His name was Bill. Actually, and that's what Len is right. If you talk to Stu, he knew Bill Hamilton really well. And also this Michael Riconosciuto, who was also involved in it. He was involved in working with Ted Gunderson.
Yeah, he went to jail for like 20 years for drug trafficking or something, right? Didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So basically
they actually set him up, and it's kind of like what they did in the Egyptian days when you built the pyramid and you were heavily involved in knowing where the real important rooms were. You were killed or put away. That's what they did with this Riconcito. They put him away, and of course I think they did the same thing with Leo Wanta, which is the big money. According to Stu Webb and others who've studied this matter, and we're not the experts, that's why we recommend you speak to the people personally, but the bottom line is that American dysfunction in our economy today is all being created largely by or generally by the Bush family's theft of trillions of dollars in the Leo Wanta project he was given responsibility for under Reagan to bring about a elimination of the central bank. And so instead of that happening, there was a coup. The Bush family administered it, and the money currently valued at trillions of dollars, which was supposed to go back into the United States Treasury, has been sequestered for this globalization and the gross economic collapse for the New World Order is all being directed largely, if you look at history, from Britain, Rothschild League, through America, Rockefeller, and now you've got the Carlyle Group directors, the executive directors, including George H.W. Bush involved. There's the big, big money. And that's, if that money was in the American economy today, we wouldn't be in the recession. We would have the opportunity to rebuild our country.
So here's the interesting thing, like that kind of like sounds very familiar. He would say Castellaro would always tell people that he would get threatening calls, and one of his housekeepers actually confirmed that she received it the night that he left to go to Virginia to meet someone for papers to put in his book. I believe he was meeting Bill McCoy, and he needed this to finish his book, and to also because he was going to be reporting it to Time magazine. She said the housekeeper would say, yeah, she received a lot of threatening calls, basically stuff like, I will cut his body, throw it to the sharks, drop dead. That sounds a lot like Tim White, and I wouldn't doubt that, it was...
It could have been, yeah.
Someone that works closely with this group.
Definitely could have been him.
It definitely. So he was receiving these threatening calls. He would stay up for hours. So he said he had a hard time working because the phone would always ring, and he'd get these threatening calls all day long, all night long, from these people threatening him. And he, basically what he did was he didn't, he still went forward, even though he was getting threats and wanted to get this information out. And they killed him. And that's one thing, it's been hidden. Like, a lot of people don't realize, what can this Promise software do? Why are they protecting it so much? What is that Promise software, according to some of the research that we did, can actually calculate how much damage a biological weapon can produce, can calculate how many people it can kill. I mean, it's so wild what this software is able to do. Mathematically calculate how bad a virus can be. It can calculate
and it
the
can
whole
do that.
makeup of the virus.
It can do that in numerous languages simultaneously. It has the most powerful capacity to literally even create, like we talked about earlier, robotoids, like humanoids.
Hey, speaking about that, what do you think about this face-eating thing, Sherri?
I think it's bogus. The whole thing is the fear mongering.
It's happening in a lot of different, in Louisiana, Florida, now in Maryland.
Yeah, I mean,
the guy cut his intestines out in New Jersey, threw it at a cop.
There's very, very bizarre things happening, but to state that this is a virus...
I think it's drug trials. I think that they're giving people drug trials, or maybe they're injecting them with something, but it's making them hallucinate.
Let me tell you where this started.
It's really weird.
I'll tell you where it started. The Centers for Disease Control were hurting. They were not getting their messages out. So they came up with a stupid advertising campaign to bring public health messages. Yeah, we're getting an echo here, Howard. Anyway, the CDC came up with an advertising campaign to use zombies and the concept that was really embraced by young people. They were not reaching the young populations. So that the propagandists, as a marketing ploy for the Centers for Disease Control, started to state, well, look, we're dealing with issues that are virtual, and it was tongue-in-cheek. It was like humorous zombies. Well, COINTELPRO got a hold of that, and they then, in their standard operating procedure to induce fear, to frighten us into submission and division, they created this whole concept that people were becoming zombies from viruses. Now, this was put out initially that I saw from Rebecca Carley.
And Truott.
And Dr. Truott, too. And so, again, ye shall know them by their fruit and the company they keep. One has been the fruit of Rebecca Carley. She wants to fire the first shots at me. For what? Producing a concert for the living water that 76 countries, that groups in 76 nations prayed over water because we understand how wonderful water is. That's a problem that she's going to attack me for. And then, of course, Truott, not even true. His name isn't True. It's Al-Masiat. He puts the True on there so you think he's true. He's not a doctor. And he was heavily involved with Gunderson and the child sex trafficking materials. So this is the COINTELPRO that includes Timothy Patrick White that are outputting this concept that we're facing now, a new virus that's going to cause us to eat each other's faces.
Well, isn't that unbelievable? But it's really weird, right? You know,
our instincts is actually happening like that. So here's another thought. Okay, it could have started like that, but the thing is, I wouldn't put anything past the CDC. I can definitely see them saying you need to get rabies shots now.
Well, yeah, now you have to get rabies shots, or they telling you to go get, if you ever had chicken pox, go get shingle shots. I mean, come on, are you kidding me?
Exactly. So it could be a form of rabies that they're injecting with a hallucinogenic.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm a little more conservative than you, Sherry. I have it. Look, they have a big enough problem getting people to take the swine flu vaccine, let alone a vaccine.
But they weren't afraid of the flu enough. Now they might be fearing because people are going to eat their faces off.
But then they would have done it in a real Hollywood style instead of a tongue-in-cheek fashion, making it kind of like a comic joke type of agenda.
I would say they don't want to put the fear out. On
I don't know. There's a look. If CDC and let's say the Rothschild League wants to kill a majority of people on this planet, it's real easy to do.
Right.
All they have to do is release what they already told us. What they already told us that they're going to release.
No. Sherry's right though, Len. It's not that much fun. Unfortunately, I don't know. I went to film school, and it's very. I'm just going to quick digression. I went to film school, and interestingly enough, I learned a lot about films, and I studied films and film theory, and Sergei Eisenstein and other stuff like that. Really, I mean, real film theorists. Alfred Hitchcock comes to mind, and he would always sort of like make these needling sort of remarks about the elite, and that's exactly it. And one of the things that you'll notice in all of Hitchcock's films is the sense of these elites. First of all, the elites are usually, a criminal is usually not a bad guy, looking like an evil-looking guy. He's usually a well-dressed businessman or something of that kind. Uncle Charlie, etc. and so forth, psychopaths. But he would also note that the elite had like a comical sort of, like he would make fun of them. I don't think it was so much that he was one of them as much as he was lampooning them by actually taking their perspective and putting it into his films. So they would make it like it's a game. All of his films, North by Northwest, think of it as a chase. It's a game, and they say, these games. James Mason says, games, little games you play. Many of his films, he used that line. And that's the idea, these little games, and it really is a game to these people. We are a game. They're playing a game. They're using us. I used it in a film I put together. It's like the game of Risk, but we're the little plastic pieces,
Exactly. We're the pawns.
Or chess or whatever. Exactly, right. We're the pawns, right.
And the thing is, they have definitely something that can knock us all out and kill us all at once. But they're holding that. Right now they're having some fun, They're letting, random people who they're injecting with whatever or gave them whatever that are going to go and commit these crimes, that are committing these crimes of, cannibalism. They let this loose. It creates more fear. They're laughing. Then they come out with maybe something that has a flu vaccination with the combination of the rabies and that, and they not only got people like us killing each other after they took this stuff, right? And they also are getting the flu vaccination, so they're dying in the meantime, or they're getting all these other sicknesses. I mean, it's a sick game. It's just crazy.
It is, and then they do strange things like Clinton now. There's a lot of psyops going on. I'm glad I'm bringing this up. like Clinton is now backing, like he's changing his policy. You know, he's instead he says that, well, we shouldn't let the Bush tax cuts expire, confusing the people because he's a Democrat and everybody likes Clinton. You know, and it's like you know, all these little twists that they put to everything going on. I really see that a lot lately. That's a good example of it, and I think they are trying to get everybody to sort of you know, be disoriented, to be you know, confused.
Exactly. That's part of it. That's how they keep it going. That's how they keep their propaganda mills going when people are stuck in confusion. And that's why I'm saying people got to wake up out of it. You can't believe what any of these people, anybody, mainstream media, Alex, or any of these people completely say. Take it, do the research yourself, and then come to your own, you know, conclusions based on facts. Don't listen to what other people tell you. We always tell people, do your own research, because, listen, I would never have known it, either with you, if they wouldn't have been attacked us first. I would never know these people existed. I never know it.
So what you did is just basically you hit a chord, and then that reacted to that chord. So similar to any of us that have been attacked, we hit a specific chord. So then I guess that like created the attacks.
Exactly.
Like some issue that you touched upon sparked the reaction.
Well, yeah, they put you on a list if they feel that you're going to go and rev up people to start to, you know, maybe cause a civil war. I mean, you know, a revolution. You know, if you have enough voices, you could create a revolution. And, you know, the thing is, when Dr. Horowitz was getting really, really, really famous, I mean, he was like the second most popular doctor on YouTube. He was, Jeremiah Wright, Obama's pastor, started citing Len's book on CNN saying, you know, goddamn America all over the television, and have you not read Horowitz's book? You know, basically this is genocide, this is a depopulation agenda against people of color. Look at the book.
Well, that's an absolute fact. Margaret Sanger was a Nazi, and she was a racist Nazi, and anybody that doesn't understand that Planned Parenthood is a front for abortions, call up and ask to have some other, if you're a woman, call out there and call anywhere in your area within 50 miles and try to find a Planned Parenthood clinic that does the actual women's care that they talk about, having mammograms and anything else that's other than an abortion, and they will not, in my experience and people that I've had try this, it's very difficult to find it. If there are 20 places, one of them has it. You know,
yes.
That's their little lie.
It is a birth control, you know, organization for sure. I mean, it definitely is a place that, but not only for abortion, I believe that there people could go there. Like, I think they had the morning after pill there.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You even have to tell your mom, hey, you know, I might be pregnant, and going there rather than sticking a hanger. So there were some elements of it that were, you know, positive, even though, you know, the idea of killing a baby while it's 7 months in the womb is really just disgusting, you know.
Yeah.
But there was elements of it. That's why, you know, they're able to keep it alive, was because of that reason. It's saying, yeah, you know, otherwise these young kids would be going down the alleyway with the hangers, you know.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want their mom to know.
That's true. I mean, again, like everything else, but that whole aspect of it. You got to remember the Rockefellers. It's like, what are they? Just like, are they such humanitarians? They're involved in everything. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you know, but they were the ones that funded this thing. So you have this overlapping reality that these are eugenicists who are actually trying to breed a master race, literally, continuously as we speak, transcending humanity.
Well, I think what you said about Planned Parenthood also, there was the thing that people weren't getting was, what were they doing with the fetuses? That there was more of it. What was in it for them, aside for, you know, depopulation? That the fetus thing, right? There's something going on with the fetus thing. They make
Big
a lot
time.
of cosmetics out of them. They use them in rituals. I mean, what were happening? I wonder if any girl ever said, "Hey, can I see the fetus?" You know, like, or what do you do with the fetuses? You know, where are they? No,
they definitely take these fetuses. We know this. I mean, I don't know if it's. again, anything that you hear from Alex Jones, you got to wonder about these days. But it was reported at Bilderberg that they intercepted, quote, intercepted, and there's pictures of them on the internet, babies and young, like abortion type, whatever.
Yeah.
Covered in gold that they were having, that were roasted and covered in gold.
Yeah. He actually got that news from MSNBC. He got it from a mainstream media source.
Yeah.
If you research it, you'll find on the mainstream media and a lot of mainstream media channels that was reported that there was a man who was stopped. I believe he was from England, but he was stopped in Thailand with this, where he wasn't stopped. They raided his hotel room and they found suitcases with these roasted babies covered in gold. And basically, there was a couple different takes on it. I read several reports on it. One said that they were used in satanic rituals. Another one said that they were used in Buddhist rituals, which I find hard to believe that Buddhism is involved in anything like that.
It's absolutely Luciferian, clearly. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
But again, take a look at where the news story of that came out of government of China, which hates the Buddhists and has been attacking the Tibetans. And then look at the spin that Alex Jones created, which actually undermines the credibility of programs like yours and mine. The stuff that we do was undermined by Alex Jones getting out with a bullhorn and screaming at a cop on the street as the Bilderbergers are gathering. Jones screams at this cop, these guys eat babies. These are the guys that have the silver or the gold wrapped babies for their food. And the cop doesn't believe him. And Jones says, "You want to bet $10,000 that that's not true?" And so the whole thing was spun out. You had Glenn Beck involved in promoting it for Alex Jones, and you see. I mean, again, I look at this as a scientist. My professional credibility rests with people being able to check my sources and see that it's based on fact. What I say is true and it's based on something substantive and material. There was nothing in Alex Jones's claims on that street that were legitimate. And it literally discredits the entire conspiracy movement. It discredits every one of us out here trying to make a difference.
Exactly.
Wow.
His claims, about the baby is true, but to blame the Bilderbergs for that it was just kind of like, okay, where's your evidence of the Bilderbergs doing that? We know now that according to that there are wealthy people that will buy this for their rituals, but how do you know that that's what the Bilderbergs are doing with the babies? I mean, how do you know? We know that there's satanic stuff going on in there, but in order to come out and come on a bullhorn like that, God knows where he was when he was doing that, but for him to do it, it's a diversion. He doesn't talk about the fact that, like Len said, that the Chinese media was out there to discredit Buddhism, and that's what it's all, religious politics, again, behind it. He doesn't talk about where he got the story and what they said and the research is missing from what he's telling people.
Yeah, and try to go to court with that kind of evidence and see how fast you get thrown out on your ear.
Yeah, you're a science fiction writer suddenly.
And so
you're a comedian. That's what you are.
And what you've done, in essence, is you've taken seriously horrible and demonic criminal activity, and you have created so much propaganda, deception, sensationalization, and discrediting controversy over it that you bury the issue. And that's part of COINTELPRO. Why do you think Alex Jones this week is in the centerfold of the National Examiner, which is the tabloids? The entire genre of tabloids is a psyops, where you stick Hillary Clinton next to an alien that has a 3-headed baby. That is a psyops. It takes away the truth, the fact that
I had to. Yes, that was very funny. I just got a great visualization of Hillary Clinton next to a three-headed alien. Oh, I love it. On the National Enquirer, yeah.
That's exactly what they do. So if you get a story in any of those tabloids, it kills the story. It's well known throughout the industry of journalism that that's what happens and that's what it does. Now, let me give you some more background. Now, think about this politically. You got a presidential election. You got Andrew Breitbart's assassination as the leading spokesperson for the Tea Party that was going gangbusters, coming up with a great platform and lots of support. Suddenly, the lead speaker gets taken out. And now, this week, Alex Jones, in that tabloid that totally discredits everything, says that this is an Obama administration murder. And gee whiz, are you serious? Why would it not be a Republican murder since the newspaper is Republican run? The National Examiner is owned by an extremely wealthy Republican who is constantly donating to Republican Party candidates exclusively. So what is it? We're witnessing how psychological operation and political manipulation is operated.
Right, and the article cite, they claim that Alex Jones is a conservative news commentator. I mean, they didn't mention he was a conspiracy news reporter.
Nor did they mention that this is beneficial to which campaign. When you target the Obama campaign, you're promoting only two others are out there. You've got number one, you've got Ron Paul, and of course we said already, you got Alex Jones as the principal propagandist for the Ron Paul campaign, and then on top of that, it's being output by who? The wealthiest Republicans in the United States. Are you kidding me?
And
it's like obvious this is a psyops.
And if you're not hip to Ron Paul, if you're not hip to what we're talking about right now, and you're just a really intelligent person out there that has and looks at Alex Jones, what he does, and how he's the main propagandist for Ron Paul, you'll say, why would I want to even back Ron Paul? Look at this crazy man that's, he's got out there promoting him. If I don't believe what this guy believes because he's not giving me any evidence of anything. He's just pointing the fingers. And then all these wealthy people aren't going to back Ron Paul if they look at Alex Jones and think, wow, this guy's crazy. I'm not going to believe it because he doesn't give me any research really that I can really count on. I mean, I'm looking at what he's stuff and there's holes everywhere. And that's what he does. He puts out stuff with holes everywhere. We can blast his research out in a minute. And the thing is that even if when he does tell the truth, he messes it up with all of these huge diversions and manipulations and lies and distortions. I mean, and that's what the whole point is. And that's what we're upset about, is that nobody ever gets the truth.
Yeah, let me give you an example again. And this is not intended to bash Alex Jones exclusively. This is just basically to have a discussion about how these guys who we think are our heroes in the media operate. If you go online to healthyworldstore.com and go to the ebook section, you can download by donation. We are asking for people's donations to help sustain us. But basically, you can make any donation you want, get the filing of reply to Alex Jones and his answer to the complaint in which he places his declaration. Now, this is not a sworn document, but it's a court filing by a court official, the attorney, and so this is supposed to be legitimate. Otherwise, you advance fraud in the court. Jones states that he should not be involved in this lawsuit because he has no business contacts in Hawaii. Okay. What an outrageous lie. First of all, when we were friends, he knew, and we were under contract, that I lived in Hawaii. I operate out of Hawaii, and I invited him to stay as my guest in our spa in Hawaii. Number one. Number two is that he runs a major portion of the Ron Paul campaign in Hawaii via people such as Mike Adams, the health ranger, who is extremely well known, who is being advertised right now on the internet as having produced this show in Hawaii for Hawaii political action in the Hawaii arena. Number 3, we the other day actually filmed a Ron Paul campaign vehicle, fully, outfitted, promoting Ron Paul on the sides of the vehicle and on the windows with Infowars.com on the license plate. That's a Alex Jones operation involved in Hawaii. So it was a complete lie what he placed into the record in our case, and then claimed that he has no affiliates in Hawaii, that Genesis Communications or Alex Jones's broadcasts never make it to Hawaii. All of this misrepresentation and omissions of the truth under law is called fraud. So his declaration that was supposed to be certified for official presentation to a court of law is fraud before the court. This is the guy, this is exactly what Sherri is saying. If this is how this guy operates, who is he operating for, and what is his motivation? Where's the money?
Because the whole diversion is that when the Bilderbergs are sacrificing, on the summer solstice, allegedly is sacrificing a baby, but he's already drowning that out by bringing up this other story about these roasted babies that have nothing to do with that story. I mean, focus on the facts. What is it you know? Okay, so you know that they do that? Okay, so then we have to get evidence to prove that they do that. But don't divert it with another story just because it has to do with, roasted fetuses. We're talking about these Bilderbergs taking a live baby and sacrificing it on the summer solstice. We're not talking about abortion babies. We're not talking about this China newspaper putting out propaganda.
And Alex Jones knows damn well, just like you know, Howard, like I know, like Sherri knows, how COINTELPRO, through deception and manipulation of the message and literally discrediting the message, and that's easily done when you don't have material evidence and you're saying all these shock jock things, and suddenly, you get a group of people angry and upset, and you develop a culture, a conspiracy industry culture, in which now everybody is involved that subscribes to the markets, the patriot market, the New Age market, the Christian fundamentalist right-wing market, the holistic health, natural healing market. That's how the money is manipulated and the mass mind is persuaded to engage the commercial operations that are being sustained through these deceptions. That's the commercial psyops. That is what has primarily undermined our ability to advance as a free and capable people. The We the People movement is advancing to basically remedy this horrible reality.
Well, we're trying. We keep getting this message out, and again, it's unbelievable. The mind control is so thick. It permeates everywhere. If you drive down the highway, right, you see all their messages. If you go to the movies, you see the messages. And then you see the results of it. Why is it that last week gas was $3.75 and then this week it's $3.59? I mean, it's a joke, They play with our lives. They manipulate the markets. They put laws into place to take our property. I can go on and on. And this whole global collapse. I mean, what about Spain? Look what's going on. Spain's looking for a bailout again. Do these people have no concept of understanding of what enslavement is? I mean, we're in some serious trouble. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, everybody is mind controlled in America to think that everything is going to be okay. Have a positive attitude, be positive, and listen. I am that way. I'm all about positive thinking. I know that that you can't achieve anything without a lot of hard work and a lot of all of this quote unquote Horatio Alger type ethics. I mean, I understand that reality. But at the same time, I'm not going to just fall prey to a false belief that this debt ceiling is just endless and there'll be no consequences.
Exactly.
So, and go ahead.
I would say, I know we're getting to the end of the show. The remedy that I have been blessed but also cursed with is having to study the law and having to understand how it works and how it can work and how it was meant to work for we the people and how we the people again can be educated and educate ourselves to make the law work for us. I think that the general concept of where we need to go as a society, as well as humanity, is we have to reconcile the fact that God's laws have to be reflected in man's laws, and how we, the people, being children of God, literally of a divine family and capability, to co-create, to recreate ourselves sustainably, to recreate our planet in harmony versus war. This is all based on law. And if we simply understand, and this is why I love the 528 love revolution, because when you understand love and you understand its resonant frequency of 528 and how it reflects from the center of the universe, the structure of creationism, it heralds creationism, not this bogus evolution of the species that the Rockefellers came up with, and all this manipulation and pseudoscience. You have real easy musical mathematical laws that control the universe. Likewise, we should reflect that in educating ourselves about how God creates and sustains and how man's laws and our use of man's laws should reflect those divine laws to sustain and harmonize and basically bring about all of the solutions, all of the compensations and the remedies necessary to move legally, righteously through to resolution and bring about world peace. That's what's prophesied. That's what Sherri and I work for, engage and advance. And we're looking for partners. We need your help. We need your support. Whatever you can do, whether it's just outputting this knowledge or getting my books into your local libraries, getting people to watch the videos that we put up. I just put up on our Vimeo channel an hour-long presentation on the 528 Love Revolution and making medicinal music instead of taking drugs and popping magic pills to cure every ill that give you side effects. Look how God works and how all of nature celebrates the capacity to sustain ourselves vibrationally through frequency or spirituality pure. So that's what we're doing. We need your help. We need your support. And we're all in this together. We've got a very powerful view, having been victimized, as we have been, by the counterintelligence propagandists who have literally put us on the brink of bankruptcy. We're coming out of this, and we're turning that lemon into lemonade, and we're moving ahead. And you can learn from our challenges and also collaborate, partner with us to advance us in the opportunities that are being generated. So we love you, Howard. Thanks a lot for being having us on your show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Howard.
Oh, you're always welcome, and thank you for joining us and giving so much information. And again, I'd love to talk about the Rockefellers so much because people don't realize how they are so in control of things in this country specifically. You even showed me a few things over the few times we spoke that I didn't know, and I thought I had them pretty well researched. But again, I really want to thank you for joining us for the 2 hours, and that's great that you stayed on as long as you did, and I appreciate that. If there's anything that we can do to forward your message. Are there any other websites that we should look out for, guys?
Yeah, the
528love.com or
that's great. We're actually having a lot of problems with 528radio.com because the attackers have been attacking us to try to get us off the air. But stay with us. Check back with 528 Radio every now and again, and one of these days we'll be able to secure the servers. And then you'll be listening to constantly, like we try to do all the time, medicinal music instead of the Rothschild Rockefeller manipulated music. And we ask people now, if you want to learn about COINTELPRO and the bulk of what we've talked about on this program, go to waronwethepeople.com, and you can learn all about the Alex Jones and David Icke involvements in our litigation, what happened. Also, you can go and, Howard, you've got a contribution there. Vinny has a contribution there, I believe, on the COINTELPRO pages of waronwethepeople.com. That website is a bulk of intelligence, very valuable life-saving intelligence that can wake people up out of the hypnotized trance state of the COINTELPRO.
Fantastic.
That's probably the best website to go to. Recommend it.
Great. Okay, guys. Aloha.
Aloha.
And we will speak again.
Sounds great. God bless. Oh.
God bless you. Okay. Okay, that was Len Horowitz and Sherri Kane, who spent the last couple hours speaking with us. We have 1 more hour to go. I'm just going to take a 2-minute song break in a few minutes as soon as Bobby is ready and lets me know that that's okay. And we'll continue on. I have some news for the 3rd hour and quite a bit of information to go over. So there's never enough time. I could just keep doing this. I mean, it would just go endless. So it's not like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I do 4 hours during the week. I do 3 hours on Saturday, and I still can't get to this bottomless pit of evil that we just keep sort of like scratching the surface on endlessly. We unfortunately have been diverted by all of this mass media mind control and messages everywhere. Oh my God, it's just unbelievable. And then you're smart and you're intelligent, you're saying, what are you talking about? I'm not mind controlled. Give me a break. But the average American really is. The average human has been conditioned to this programming. Death to the New World Order, and to oneself be true. There is no greater truth than the truth that you find on your own. I'm Howard Nema. We are Change Connecticut, and God bless you.